because I tell you who I'm hiring already. I'll tell you right now. I'm hiring Randazza.
There's two reasons you pay a lawyer an extreme amount of money. One, they are really, really good. And two is they're going to do unethical things and risk their law license.
This is Mr. Randazza.
He's one of the best First Amendment lawyers in the country, which is why I hired him.
He has a 5-star rating based on 25 reviews.
Well, a lot of those reviews might be his own. Usually the bad reviews are the honest reviews.
This is Marc Randazza. Mark with a C. Already a red flag, in my opinion.
He has this big bragging thing that he's licensed in all these different bars.
Massachusetts, Nevada, California, Arizona, Florida. Oh, look.
All of these different bars.
He's the journalism. He's got his BA from the University of Massachusetts in journalism. Master of Arts in the Mass Communication Law. Mass Communication Law.
He has a master's in how to write memos and press releases.
He has JD from Georgetown. He is a nationally known First Amendment and intellectual property attorney and handles litigation and transactional matters nationwide. His practice includes representation of internet businesses with Section 230 protection, adult entertainment businesses, and other businesses and individuals in intellectual property and free speech matters. Randazza formerly taught First Amendment law, entertainment law, trademark law, and copyright law at Barry University School of Law in Orlando, Florida. So he taught here. So when you go to law school, you also get to teach law?
Well, apparently, but this law school doesn't have the greatest reviews.
Barry University School of Law. Barry University is committed to providing graduates with skills and knowledge needed to aid society through the competent and ethical practice of law. Students are exposed to the theories of law from a faculty of professors who are leaders in their field and who embrace an open-door policy. This one's a 4-star from 2011. It sounds like the school is getting very aggressive and elevating their stature of the board of the school, thus continues to improve its reputation. I mean, shut the hell up. I have seen the caliber of students noticeably improve from just last year. Within the next decade, Barry School of Law will have a solid reputation. The school has...
See, they couldn't give it 5 stars because that would be too obvious, so they gave themselves 4 stars and wrote their own review. Well, let's see what John has to say.
What's John have to say? John gave it 1 star, but Davis D is from Cali, is going to give it 5 stars next, so we'll see. From Queens, New York, the first couple of semesters they put a high amount of students on probation, charge them top dollar, then dismiss them on a very questionable grading system. These students are thrown out with big student loan debt, and these crooks pocket. This is not a genuine law school. It is a money scam. Do not go here. Most law schools have nowhere near the dismissal rate because they are a scam. Oh, this was February of this year. John Dunn just got scammed because Davis did this one in 2021. Finishing my 3rd year, it is great. I was very scared at first, but I learned to gain confidence with the law and with writing about legal issues. Barry taught me the confidence to develop my natural skills at arguing and fighting for my clients. I'm really impressed with the education at the law school. I did get a chance to visit a state school for the summer and found the professors at the law school did not care a bit about the students. Oh, you've been to bash some other school.
That sounds like somebody that works for the
Davis
school.
D, we do not believe you. We're going to ask Miss Val because we believe all women. Do not waste your money or your time going here. If this is the only place that you were accepted to, then don't go to law school. Take the LSAT and try again. Worst school ever. Where do I even begin? 1, unorganized. 2, unprofessional. 3, you will get tested on things that you are not supposed to. 4, most professors are too old to teach. Most professors contradict themselves or will say, I don't know. I had a classmate assault another classmate. We had to have security in the class from that time on. They were not kicked out of the class or anything, nor did the professor say anything to stop them. This is an expensively ridiculous joke of a law school. They barely pass the bar exam because students are not prepared. They do not test frequently enough, nor do they present the material in the proper way. You will study and not know stuff only to go to class and get confused, even though you had it right the whole time. Half the time you're correcting the professor. Barry Law School is definitely a waste of money and time. Don't ruin your finances or waste your time. Jasmine from Atlanta. is very pissed off. Barry is unequivocally one of the worst law schools in the country, and she went ahead and gave a dissertation about it. This is their first review. Barry is a very good law school. I am proud to have been a student. Law firms in town will be impressed with Barry's most recent grads. They are the best around and should be hired. Wink, wink. The fuck? Is it an assignment to go leave a 5-star rating at the Yelp
Probably.
site? Jeez,
We get
Louise,
5
wink,
bonus points
wink.
in the next exam.
What does that even mean? So this is where Randazza taught because, why not?
2.5 stars, yeah. Super lawyer.
Super lawyer.
So this is his review. This is like a legal lawyer's review website. So it's not just like random people.
Very rude and useless. I was referred to him in a trademark case. Initially, he showed great interest in my case. However, the more questions I was asking about his fees, the more unresponsive he turned. Finally, he made me understand that he was not interested in representing me. His final response was a shocking email where he used a brutally rude and unrespectful language. Okay? I reported him to the competent bar association. 1 star.
That doesn't sound like somebody Nick would want to hire.
I mean, this Marco fella is probably just pissed that he has been jacked of a name. Let's see what Anonymous has to say. Would not recommend this attorney. Mr. Randazza was employed by my company as general counsel for approximately 3.5 years as our general counsel. We have recently concluded litigation against his attorney, a 2.5-year binding arbitration, and the judge's ruling determined Mr. Randazza had committed, in the judge's words, quote, clear and serious breach of fiduciary duty.
Uh-oh.
What?
That's not good.
Anonymous. Our experience and the judge's ruling was that Randazza engaged in a host of actions prohibited by the professional rules of conduct, including negotiating for monetary payment to him directly from opposing parties in litigation.
Uh-oh.
He'd also taken on numerous clients whose interests were adverse to ours, conflict of interest, without disclosing them to us and without informed written consent. He was general counsel for this company, and he...
Remember when I said that high-paid lawyers, they either get paid because they're really, really competent or they're really, really dirty?
Specifically, Mr. Randazza was tasked with protecting our copyrights. During a lawsuit with a party who had been violating our copyrights, it was discovered that Mr. Randazza pursued a $75,000 bribe from the opposing party in exchange for conflicting himself out of future representation against them. Subsequent discovery revealed that this was a pattern Mr. Randazza had engaged in. During a suit with a party who had been violating our copyrights, it was discovered Mr. Randazza pursued a $75,000 bribe from the opposing party. Mr. Randazza's actions following one specific settlement with an opposing party in copyright litigations resulted in that opposing party filing suit over Randazza's violation of the settlement agreement. This led to our having to settle with the opposing party at considerable expense.
He cost somebody a lot of money.
In another instance, Mr. Randazza actually took on as a client another website company who repeatedly violating our copyrights without disclosing this to us. In another instance, Randazza took on a client who repeatedly violated...
He's just going to milk the bolt for the most money possible.
This rendered us entirely unable to pursue this company for their repeated violations of our copyright because Mr. Randazza clandestinely represented them. Mr. Randazza's willingness to engage in conflicts like the above caused us considerable harm as the attorneys we'd hired to pursue protection of our intellectual property rights was either unwilling or unable to do precisely that. Instead, as the arbitrator ruled, unjustly enriching themselves at our expense. Further complications arose as a result of Mr. Randazza's actions. Mr. Randazza wiped his company laptop of our client files and data, did not release to us close to $600,000 in client files being held in trust accounts, and refused for a considerable amount of time to hand over their legal files.
So the other company paid up, and he fucked his previous employer.
Oh, he responded. Marc
yes.
John Randazza's response. Much of this is outright lies. The rest is misrepresentation. There was no judge in this, just a biased arbitrator who this company paid a hell of a lot of money to, and go figure, they got the decision they paid for. I could refute this point by point, but I won't. Doing so would require, bitch. Doing so would require me, in part, to violate attorney-client privilege, and despite what this lowlife has to say, I don't do that. But look at the reviews here and make up your mind. The word bribe gets tossed around. This was a retainer. I don't call my retainer a bribe, how dare you? Opposing party wanted to hire me after the litigation was over. I told them that would be just fine, but there would be a significant payment for that representation. Is that a bribe? No, sir. What really happened here was my employer refused to pay what it owed me, and I was forced to arbitrate rather than get real due process in court. I bless the day that I did not to work for this lowlife anymore and wish the best of luck to anyone foolish enough to do so. If this review is persuasive to you, hire another attorney. I am just relieved that I no longer have to associate with this scumbag. Okay. One of a kind. Marc Randazza helped us out of a serious bind in 2008. We were referred through our local lawyer who spoke very highly of him, saying he's a great guy, real down to earth, and probably one of the best in the field.
Speaking of that, I have a recording of Marc saying that the only way he can even get jobs is because lawyers will get cases that they don't want to touch because they're too bad, too dirty, too whatever. So then they give them Marc's number because he's the garbage panda of lawyers.
It's really been funny because it's a lot of
it's
it
funny?
has come from, in fact, most of my work comes from other lawyers get a call and they say, my firm can't touch this, but I know a guy. And I am that guy.
In his own word. This is just his bar problems in Florida.
Can I click all of these?
Oh, yeah.
Marc Randazza discipline case, public reprimand with conditions. This is a reciprocal discipline action based on the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and recommendations of the Southern Nevada Disciplinary Board of the state of Nevada based on a July 2018 order approving conditional guilty plea agreements of the Supreme Court of the state of Nevada.
He pled guilty for a lesser punishment.
I had to personally wire $15,000 to pay the initial parts of this lawsuit. It's just gone. It's 15 grand.
And which imposed a 12-month suspension, stayed for 18 months subject to conditions. So this is exactly what that complaint was saying. This is the lawsuit.
Yes.
Is this like the law firm of like behind the dumpster and gets paid in like cheap vodka?
Corrupt attorney Marc Randazza represents Dwight Scharr and Bella. Update. Marc Randazza is probably one of the most corrupt attorneys in America. Randazza is so corrupt that Avowed, the website we were looking at, a legal online registry, issued the lowest rating possible, 1 out of 10, and marked corrupt Randazza's profile with a warning, extreme caution. Wait, I didn't even notice that part. If that is not enough, it seems that even the United States Patent and Trademark Office has suspended Marc Randazza. Marc Randazza, the respondent, is hereby suspended from the practice of trademark and other non-patent law before the United States Patent and Trademark Office. This lawyer was disciplined by the state licensing authority in 2020. So he had a suspension. He was suspended. It was stayed there. Discipline, probation, no actual suspension in California. This sanction means the attorney had a suspension placed on hold and ultimately removed by complying with certain requirements. Okay. Reprimanded and probation in Arizona. Reprimand means the attorney did something wrong but may still practice law. While on probation, the state monitors the attorney's activities for a period of time and hopes that he or she will not repeat the behavior. Stayed another suspension in Nevada in 2018. This one we read about.
He was too corrupt for Alex Jones. Alex Jones had to fire him because the judge said that this man is too corrupt to represent you, Alex Jones.
The InfoWars founder was told by a Connecticut judge that Randazza was tainted.
He's one of the best First Amendment lawyers in the country.
The same judge accused Randazza of serious misconduct.
Which is why I hired him.
In addition, Randazza lied while filing claims for Jones in the state of Connecticut, where he was not licensed to practice.
It's just gone. It's 15 grand.
He tried to join Alex Jones' case. What's it called when you don't have something that's like pro hoc vice or something?
He is simply removed from this case in which he had special permission to appear. That permission is called pro hoc vice admission, and that's when a lawyer from one state asks another state for permission to practice in front of the court, even though it's not licensed.
It's what Randazza is doing for Nick in Minnesota. So Nick has to pay Randazza his $15,000 retainer, plus he has to pay the other lawyer who is there.
Oh,
Randazza is using the other lawyer's
acting
law
as an
license. It says Alex Jones needed an untainted lawyer. That is why he fired Marc Randazza last month.
This is actually potentially a bigger problem going forward because he runs a nationwide practice of high-profile cases.
Multiple state bar disciplinary proceedings. The State Bar of Nevada charged him with, these are the professional misconducts. These are the ones we saw earlier.
Yes.
And Arizona issued a public reprimand and suspension based on some of the misconduct that took place in Nevada. A new disciplinary case was opened in Arizona and California based upon further information and documentation of alleged misconduct by Randazza. Was given a reprimand of 1 year probation in Florida. Randazza was named one of the top 50 newsmakers in the adult entertainment industry by XBiz World Magazine in 2011.
Mark has a history of having pornography filmed in his office, allegedly,
What?
on his briefs, allegedly. So
On
he
his briefs?
represents the porn companies, and as a just a little side bonus, allegedly, they film porn in his law office.
Allegedly. Marc Randazza on filming. Oh boy.
So hear his own opinion about himself. Super lawyer.
Just having you talk a
Super
little
lawyer.
bit
Super
about what
lawyer.
you do.
For the reason I got into porn, I was young and I needed the money. But no, it's when I am I guess every First Amendment lawyer has an origin story. And when I sit around having drinks or bong hits with other First Amendment lawyers,
Wait
I
a
like
minute.
to ask them what theirs are.
Yeah.
And we all
Well, at least, I mean, he's 420 friendly, so should we just stop now and give him a pass?
have a moment. I call him my quit hassling me, man story. I think for young people,
Tell me how believable
you
this
never
story is.
realize how much your First Amendment rights are infringed upon until the moment you learn about them. So I had a crazy social studies teacher in high school who was explaining to us all of these things that had been done under the auspices of the American flag, and said, you really want to salute that? We were talking about flag burning, and I said, I still don't agree with that, but I don't really like the idea of saluting the flag.
He was
It feels
calling
like compelled
Kaepernick
speech.
before
It
calling
feels really
Kaepernick.
weird, I can agree with the Constitution. If you put the Constitution up there, I'd salute it, but I'm not going to pledge allegiance to a piece of cloth. And he said, well, you don't have to. Great. So the next day in homeroom, I stayed seated. This is long before Colin Kaepernick was even born. And that led to me being sent down.
Didn't he say his teacher said he didn't have to do it? And so he didn't do
sorry.
it?
Oh, you were looking for the truth. I'm sorry. You're at the wrong podcast.
I'm sorry.
Down to the principal's office and spending a lot of time there and getting screamed at. And there were even teachers who expressly authorized other students to kick my ass for it.
What did you say, Justice Smollett?
I got my ass kicked. And frankly,
This MAGA country.
Teachers were paying kids to beat your ass.
Once I bled for it. Now I bled for it. Now I'm not backing down. And I never did. I spent the rest of the year fighting that. And so off to college I go, where I decide I'm going to do the what do I want to major in? I said, well, journalism. That's a great place for somebody who thinks they want to stick up for the First Amendment.
It's a great place for a big fucking liar, for somebody who wants to create the narrative and sell it to people.
Right, exactly.
And I spent 7 years getting my journalism degree.
7?
Wait, 7 years? That's like a medical PhD. Journalism's like 2, maybe 1.
While I was studying journalism, I was simultaneously getting a major in, I guess we could say, recreational horticulture and female anatomy.
Oh, he was smoking pot and fucking chicks, so it took him 7 years to get his 2-year degree.
Super lawyer?
Dun, da-da!
So, I flunked out 3 times.
Aww.
And after really losing sight of everything through all the acid, and
what?
Through all the acid?
This is a super lawyer. That's a superpower, being high all day.
I mean, no, I mean, if you could pass, but he failed 3 times.
7 years. You just really like to try.
Got back to school and I took a First Amendment class with a Professor Karen List.
That's the Karen.
And I was really into it and really participated. It was a new experience for me. And
What, being in school for a change?
On my first exam,
Really
I got a
listening.
30 out of 100,
Jeez Louise. His first exam, he got a 30.
which is not a passing grade, not even at UMass. And
The school he graduates from. Not even at this shit school. It's
Not even a shit
passing.
school.
Karen grabbed me in the hallway and threw me against the wall.
The fucking professor grabbed him and threw him against the wall.
Now picture this, Jesse.
And said, "You're the smartest fucking person I've ever had in my class."
He just got a 30 on his test, his first test.
I can't make this shit up. I can't.
But here's the thing,
internet
he's not even
wants you.
selling this to us. He's not even good at this. So all these years later, he hasn't even made this into an arguable, believable story.
He's memorized it. I got another one after this. You'll see.
Oh,
And you
good for
just
him.
flunked my exam. Now you're going to get your shit together. I don't know what your problem is, but you're going to recover from it. You're going to get it done. You're going to get an A in this course, and you're going to start to be a good student. And I'm sitting there stunned, with my mohawk and my leather jacket up against the wall. And I'm thinking,
Mohawk and leather jacket.
I'm smart. I didn't know that. I didn't know that until
You're
somebody
not.
told me that. Kids are that way. So that really got me kind of on the First Amendment kick.
You just went through 7 years of school.
Dude,
You're like
he said he was
27.
bleeding on the First Amendment kick hill in fucking high school. Remember? He's going to bleed for it.
Yeah. He did bleed for it. He bled for it because the teachers paid students to beat him up, allegedly.
And now teachers are beating him up.
Allegedly. 7 years later, he's just a kid.
I know, right? I'm like, you're in college, bro. You're not a kid anymore, but okay.
Fast forward to law school where they strangle all of that idealism out of you. And then I figured out that I couldn't be a First Amendment lawyer and make more money than it would take, than I would make maybe returning bottles and cans to the store. And I got kind of tied up in the idea that I had to work for a big firm and have an expense account and make money and all that. So I went to a firm where I did
had to be a lawyer.
condominium association law.
Oh, he's a
And you had
condo
to live
lawyer.
until you're sitting there with your Georgetown law degree and you're writing a letter to Mrs. Finkelbaum about allowing her dog to defecate on the common elements of Del Boca Vista Phase 4.
This is
And,
Nick Super Lawyer.
I'll never forget the very first thing I did when I got sworn in as a Florida attorney was my boss handed me a file and he said, "Well, so here's your first task." And I had to write a memo on the legal consequences of baby shit in a trailer park pool. So
This guy doesn't
I
believe
dove
it.
into it. I wrote a hell of a long memo with citations and everything and learned more about baby shit in pools than you could ever want to know. And it was known as the infamous baby shit memo. And then one day my boss took me out to lunch and said, "We get the impression you don't really like your job." But they told me to go take a vacation and think about what I really want. And in the meantime, I picked up a dirty bookstore as a client.
Isn't that the crime of taking side clients when you're working for a firm?
Listen, I went to the School of Farron, the School of Journalism bullshit, and here's the thing. When you get fired, you never call it that. You got a vacation, you're going to come back.
Pick up a new client, new job, right off the bat.
Yeah, they sent him on vacation. He wasn't fired whatsoever. That's a rumor and a fucking lie, so allegedly.
Great recommendation for my new job.
Just before I went to law school, I went and saw The People versus Larry Flint and said, "That's what I want to be when I grow up." And Jesus, where did I lose track of all that? So I come back in, really happy because I picked up this dirty bookstore as a client. And I said, "Look, man, yeah, I like my job. Look, I got this client." And they said, "Well, we don't really want to be known for that." I was like,
Oh,
"Shit."
this is when he
So I took my one client and went and found another firm that did First Amendment law exclusively and took a whopper of a pay cut and a whopper of a prestige cut. I went from having 2 secretaries to sharing a paralegal in a strip mall, and and I started working on these kinds of cases. And then internet porn really started to get big, and
Hallelujah.
all of these little companies that were just starting out came to us for advice. And so I started working on a lot of those issues. I went from driving a Ford Focus to buying a Porsche cash. So that's really how I got my start in it. Once you start doing that kind of First Amendment law, you are tagged as the porn lawyer. So
So Nick hired the
none of
porn
those
lawyer.
respectable firms really want you back.
No respectable firm would have you.
Here I am.
So Nick hired the lawyer that no one wants. You tell me if this sounds similar.
This is 2 years ago. This one has 5 views, 5 subscribers. Lawyerpreneur, no comments. Age restricted even.
Mark, welcome to Lawyerpreneur.
Thanks, Jeremy.
And I don't recall where I saw this conversation occurring, whether it was on Twitter or somewhere else, is that you enjoy taking bar exams. Is that right?
It is, yes. I'm admitted to 5 state bars now. And, it's funny, after I passed Nevada, my partner asked me, said, so what's next?
To go to California.
I thought, well, I honestly don't need any more states, but I would like to keep the challenge going. So I thought I'll either take, I thought maybe I'd take Louisiana, since that is a completely separate legal system, so I give that a shot. Or maybe Puerto Rico, since I don't really speak Spanish. So if I could pass that, that'd be a hell of an accomplishment.
Well, that would make sense, right? Go to a country that you don't speak the language.
But instead, what I want to do is taking the NCA exams in Canada. You take these exams that then give you the right to sit for a provincial bar exam. But the provincial bar exams in Canada are all about, it's all about setting up your binder and tabs. They're actually extremely easy because it's open book. So
you should be able to pass
the NCA exams. I was like, all right.
So he goes, I was going to take the Louisiana bar because they have a totally different legal system. Then I was going to go to Puerto Rico because that's very hard. And if I could speak Spanish, whew, dope. But instead I went to Canada because it's really fucking easy to pass their test.
And has an open book.
An open book. I was going to say he's not barred in the 2 places. We looked at his resume. He didn't end up getting the other 2.
So standardized testing, have you always enjoyed standardized testing, or is it just like a bar exam
He
thing?
literally just told us those 2 things for no reason.
So he's going to admit that he cheats on all of his exams right here.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I've always been good at standardized tests because it was a good way to avoid having to actually do any work. If you know how to game the test, well, then you can go out and get stoned on the playground instead of going to class in high school.
Are you kidding?
What?
Oh, Lord.
Because there's one right answer, 3 wrong answers. So you just eliminate the wrong answers, then you're left with like a 50-50 chance.
Oh, the ones you know are wrong for sure, and then you try to figure out the... Okay. No wonder he got a 30 on his first test.
Unpopular.
He's a super lawyer. Will you stop it?
I know, I'm an asshole.
Every First Amendment lawyer has an origin story, and it usually starts when they're very young, before they even think about going to law school.
In the womb.
Ding, ding, ding. When I sat with Jesus.
It's right about when you learn what your First Amendment rights are, and then within 24 hours, you'll find how they're being infringed.
It's not word for word.
So I had this crazy communist history.
Oh, now he's a communist
in high school, and great guy, and really made us all very intellectually curious. And he taught us about how you did not have to salute the flag in homeroom if you didn't want to. And then he said, would you want to do that? Do you want to salute this? And he went off on his whole thing. And I just thought, well, if I don't have to, I don't think I want to. It doesn't make any sense. This ritualistic thing that
Nick hires the most anti-American lawyer.
Plus, I'm an atheist.
Yeah, of course.
So you want me
anti-God.
Thing that says
Nick's the man of God. Hires an atheist lawyer who hates America.
Atheist who won't salute our flag? Fuck.
Under God in it. So I refused. With pretty much every teacher being against me on it. And then it actually got to the point where, I got my ass kicked for it. And now once that happened, I said, well, screw this. Now I've shed blood for it. Now I'm never backing down.
No.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, once you got your law degree and started practicing, how'd you get into it?
I had this is actually a summer associate offer. And then I got a summer associate offer for 3 times the money somewhere else doing God knows what. And, I followed the money for the debt, so it took me a while. But then I was working for a relatively large law firm in Florida, and doing condominium association law. You know, you haven't lived until you're sending letters to Mrs. Finkelbaum about allowing her dog to defecate on the common elements.
The same condominium Finkelbaum poop story?
So a dirty bookstore came in the door. And I said, well, I know how to do this. And, you know, my boss was a great guy, and he took me out to lunch with all the other partners in the office and said, do you really like what you're doing here? And I was about to say, you know, I was about to lie and say yes. And he said, take a week's vacation.
There it is.
Go to Mexico with your girlfriend and then come back and answer.
Oh, go to Mexico.
And I came back and I was like,
Yeah, and now he suddenly has a girlfriend. I'm exited out again.
no, I don't. I want to do this stuff. So I wound up getting a job with a firm headed up by John Weston. Who had...
No, that's not how it goes. You go on vacation, you come back super excited about your porn books thing, and they say we don't want to be associated with that, and then you downgrade.
And so, did you start your own practice then and go from there? How'd that?
No, I worked for this small boutique firm that did almost, you know, back then it was all strip clubs and adult bookstores. Right about that time, internet porn exploded. Fabulous. Best thing that could have happened. Porn companies were terrified. Dissent was getting attacked all over the place. And, you know, I went from driving a Ford Focus to driving a Porsche overnight. My career was built on, it's mostly I get clients from other lawyers who will get a call and they'll say, I can't touch this, but I know a guy.
Whether or not I agree with somebody's content is irrelevant to whether I'll represent them. What Mr. Anglin and what the Daily Stormer does is First Amendment protected. Gersh, as far as I see it, did not get unwillingly brought into this debate. Don't walk into that arena if you don't want to get hit.
That's the same thing that he's arguing for Monty. Information curated from across the web, courts, state bars, articles, comments. Most information has possibly been suppressed by official search engines, so it cannot be easily found. You will decide what's real or not. We are not affiliated with Attorney Randazza or Randazza Legal Group. These are his multiple state bar disciplinary proceedings. Same ones we looked at, though, I think.
It's 15 grand.
I'm a public figure in America, but very private in England. Marc Randazza against free speech claims he's not corrupt, LOL. That's the journalism. False documents. Randazza accused of filing false, fraudulent claim in bankruptcy court. This is 2020.
He wouldn't do something like that.
On March 4th, 2020, Mr. Randazza filed a fraudulent creditor claim in bankruptcy proceeding against the personal estate of Mr. somebody for the amount of $481,000 on behalf of Consumer Opinion Corp. doing business as pissedconsumer.com without a valid judgment or a faith basis. This is a direct violation of his probation with the Nevada State Bar. The claim is considered false if the statement contained therein are intentionally inaccurate and submitted without any good faith basis for the claim and are not the result of a mistake, clerical error, or inadvertent omission. Mr. Randazza unscrupulously and deceitfully worded his proof of claim in the bankruptcy proceedings to simply reference the claims or allegations without stating the fact that the claims had been denied by the court. And another one. Marc Randazza grievous and repeated violations of Florida Bar ethical rules and Nevada State Bar probation violation.
He's collecting violations like he's collecting bar licenses.
Your good name is garbage.
Marc Randazza has been facing some disciplinary action, and we've mentioned before that he appealed, and we were wondering if it was just for timing or for what. But then this came down October 10th, 2018. This is an automatic review of a disciplinary board hearing panel's recommendation. This is in the state of Nevada, that this court approve a conditional guilty plea agreement in exchange for a state form of discipline for Marc J. Randazza.
It's 15 grand.
Under the agreement, Randazza admits to a violation of Rule of Professional Conduct 1.8a regarding conflicts of interest with current clients. and Rule of Professional Conduct 5.6 regarding restrictions on the right to practice in exchange for a 12-month suspension. So before we continue, let me explain that last part.
Yeah.
A 12-month suspension stayed for 18 months subject to conditions. He has a 12-month suspension, but it's not going into effect. It's just been sentenced and written down. He will be subject to some kind of conditions, like a probationary period or something. If at the end of 18 months he's kept his nose clean, the court should recognize all of that as part of the agreement. The issue for this court is whether the agreed upon discipline sufficiently protects the public, the courts, and the legal profession.
And you didn't work.
Randazza has admitted to violating
less.
duties owed to his client, conflict of interest, and the legal profession, restrictions on the right to practice. And the admitted facts reflect that the misconduct was knowing. The record supports one aggravating circumstance. The aggravating circumstance was that his substantial experience in the practice of law, meaning he should know better. Considering all the factors, we conclude that the agreed upon discipline is appropriate. Accordingly, we hereby suspend Marc J. Randazza for 12 months, stayed for 18 months commencing on the date of this order, subject to the following conditions. Randazza shall, quote, stay out of trouble during the probationary period. He shall successfully complete an additional 20 hours of continuing education in ethics, in addition to his normal CLE requirements. That's a big deal, guys. It's hard to find ethics credits sometimes because you only need like 2 out of 12 hours. And 4, he shall pay the actual costs of the disciplinary proceeding, including $2,500, within 30 days of this court's order, if not done so already.
Penalties.
And
he
then
is fucking
here's
really
signatures of the Nevada Supreme Court. So there you go. We were wondering what was going to happen to Marc Randazza, and basically he's been given a last chance.
He's one of the best First Amendment lawyers in the country.
Honestly, sounds pretty fair to me, but I'm biased. Let me explain my bias. I am reassured that if they'll even do that for Marc Randazza under these circumstances, as long as I don't do anything that bad, I'll be fine. If someone has more or less intentionally or knowingly misused their power, that's a pretty big deal too. So I kind of feel you both sides on this one, but I'm personally biased in favor of I want to be reassured that I'll keep my job if I mess up.
Wait, what makes him the best in the country then? Should I ask Google?
My lawyer costs a shitload. An absolute ton.
I think by best, Nick meant only. One that would take Remember, the only way he gets clients is when lawyers won't touch your case. They give you to him.
You have an image and branding problem. Your good name is garbage. So like if you want to repair your good name, man, you got to stop and start acting like anybody else on the planet.
This is not Nick and some random guy having a personal battle between each other. This is something that literally affects every fucking one of us and everyone else that's on YouTube. This is not a personal battle between two people.
I don't mean to say this irreverently, but this case is a joke. And what I mean is, it's two guys who talk smack on the internet